Okay, so today we're looking at adding and subtracting a decimal and a fraction, and you've already gotten notes on how to add or subtract decimals, so we may have to use that. You also already know how to add fractions, add or subtract fractions. So today we're just going to see when we have a combination of them, what we should do, okay? So on this problem, Samantha used 2 2500 cups of unbleached flour and 2 1/2 cups of whole wheat flour to make banana bread. How many total cups of flour did Samantha use? So I'm going to say that's my main idea is going to be total cups of flour. Okay? Total cups of flour is going to be my total. I think it's going to do some weird stuff with autofocus, so I'm going to try to take that out. Alright. So if you're starting with your window pane, we're doing our main idea first, and that should be total cups of flour. And basically just making sure that you know what your main idea is. Now she used 2 2500 cups of unbleached white flour. So I'm just going to call that white flour, so WF. And then that's 2 2500. And I might just go ahead and draw a unit bar. And then if this is 1 and that's 2 2500. Do you think it's going to be a big piece or a tiny piece? 2500. Remember we were talking yesterday when you estimate 2500s, what do you think that's closest to? Do you think that's closest to 0, closer to 1/2, closer to 1? It's really, and that's one of those tricky ones. It's right in the middle. So it's closer, it's as close to 0, equally as close to 0 as it is to 1/2. So if it's going to be 1/2 of one of these, I'm going to make another one that just says doo, 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 about like that. Okay? This is my 2 2500. And then for my whole wheat flour, so I'm going to call this WWF. Oh man, that's my whole wheat flour. Isn't that like wrestling also? Oh well, I'm sorry, excuse me. There was a WWF. Yeah, when I looked at it long years ago. Alright, so 2 1/2 cups. So I'm going to say 2 1/2 cups. I'm going to try to make my pieces about the same size for that 2 pieces. Now, do you think 1/2 is, you said that 2500 was close to 1/2, so you think 1/2 is a little bit bigger? You think 1/2 is a little bit bigger than 2500s, or are they the same size? Bigger. 1/2 is bigger, so I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger than that. Alright. So that's going to be my 2 1/2. It doesn't have to be exact because we don't know exact. We just need to have an understanding of numbers. Okay? Now, I see a problem with these because we always want to add like terms, like to like. We want to add apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Right now we have a decimal and a fraction. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this. We don't have answer choices to tell us which way to go. So we can just choose which one we'd like to do. Okay, so I'm going to do both ways. I'm going to do both ways on this problem. So the first one, so this is going to look a little bit different than we normally do. The first one, this side is going to be fraction side, and this side is going to be the decimal side. Because I just want to show you that you can do either way. And most of the time it's going to be dependent upon what you feel more comfortable with or what the answer choice is in. Now as a fraction, I can say this first one, 2 2500. Does anyone know what there's an equivalent fraction to 2500s? Yes, sir? 2 1/4, because we know that 2500 is like a quarter, and a quarter is 1/4 of a dollar. So I'm going to say 2 1/4 here. And then we have 2 1/2. What should I do now? Yes, ma'am? Okay, I need to make an EFT to find a common denominator. So I need to make an equivalent fraction table to get a common denominator. Some of you already know what it is, but I'm going to show. So 2 and then 4. Oh look, I didn't have to go that far. So 2 1/2 is equivalent to 2 2/4. Just because I have problems with keeping my numbers together, I just circle the things that I'm going to use, okay? Circle the numbers you're going to use. Because when you're writing so much, sometimes it can get confusing about what numbers you use. So now I'm going to add these because it says total. So I'm going to add, and I'll say 2 1/4 because that's my first one, plus 2 2/4. Oops. I didn't leave room for my whole number. Alright, so add your whole numbers together. What do you get? 4. So 2 and 2 is 4. And then 1 plus 2 is 3. And your denominator is the same, so it stays the same. It stays 4. So 4 3/4. Okay? Now some of you don't like fractions. It's like the worst thing for you. And you may not like doing fractions. So what we're going to do is show you how to do the same problem with a decimal. Okay? Alright, so we're going to start with the decimal because we have 2 25/100ths. 2 25/100ths. Because I'm working with decimals, I want to stack my decimals up, so I'm going to write underneath it. Okay? So for this one, 2 1/2, we've been talking about it, and we've seen on our fraction number line paper, what is an equivalent decimal for 1/2? Yes, sir. You remember? No? Okay. Yes, sir?
2.
Well, you got to be able to say it. NB. HF. 2 50/100ths. Is that? Yes. She said 2 50/100ths or 2 5/10ths. Guys, you got to remember those decimal equivalencies for fractions, especially the ones that are benchmark fractions. Okay. So she said that 2 1/2 is equivalent to 2 50/100ths. Do you agree? Okay. And that 2 50/100ths is the same as 2 5/10ths. Okay? Alright, and we're doing a total, so we got to put our plus sign in there. What happens with decimal points? What do? They stay the same. They line up. Remember, decimal points line up. That's the most important thing. So when you see decimal points when you're adding or subtracting, you need to know that decimal points line up. Now that your decimal point is in place, it's separating your whole numbers from your parts of numbers. So your whole numbers from your fractions or your whole numbers from your decimals. Now you can just add it. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 2 is 4. Now if you look at your answers, you have 4 3/4 over here, and over here you have 4 75/100ths. Well, isn't the decimal for 3/4 75/100ths? Yes, so it's the same answer. So it doesn't matter which one you have, you just have to make sure that it is equivalent, that it's the same, whichever one you feel comfortable with, okay? So what we're going to do is use, we're going to make sure that we work the second one with a friend, and then we'll come back, which is weird because it looks like we have the same words. It's exactly the same. Why did they give us one that's exactly the same? I don't know. Oh, you know what? Because Miss McQueen was loopy. Because they wanted us to do, instead of doing it here, like I did, it's here. We could do one that was fraction and then one that was decimal. Nah. So, I'm gonna say that you guys will, I'm gonna allow you to try number 2 with whomever you're sitting next to. And with number 2, it starts with Harrison and Cheryl. Please make sure that you're finding your main idea. I'll give you about maybe 5 minutes to work with a friend, and you get to choose, let's see, they gave it both ways. So you have one that you can do as a fraction and the other one that you're going to do as a decimal. So why don't you work the first one as a fraction? Work the first one as a fraction. and work the second one as a decimal. Yes, you do. If I gave it to you to do, you have to do it. That was, you must do both. You must do both because you need to be equally comfortable doing adding fractions or subtracting fractions as you are adding and subtracting decimals, because your answer choices sometimes are going to be in fraction form and sometimes are going to be in decimal form. It will be an equivalency. They will be equal to one another. But if you are uncomfortable with one, that's one that you should probably work on a little bit more. Okay? So I'm going to start the timer, and then you're going to work for 5 minutes. I'll give you, actually, since there's 2 problems, I'll give you about 8 minutes to do both of those problems. Same work. It's just that one's a fraction and one's a decimal. Go ahead and find your partner now.